Rockstar, thank you so much for having me, and happy Easter, my friend.
Happy Easter as well. We were just chatting in preparation for this episode on we're coming together on Easter to talk about what Bitcoin does for self-improvement. Is that kind of interesting?
Well, as you said, and as many of us, I think, are starting to speculate about, it's increasingly difficult to label these things coincidences. Now, I don't know what territory that lands us in when we start departing from using that characterization, but they seem to be piling up a lot in this space. Bitcoin seems to be something that fosters serendipity in a way that maybe we don't yet understand.
Yeah. I mean, I'll try not to start too strong on that topic because I'm quite opinionated on it. And I was watching your interview with Michael Saylor, where he was asking why are you so popular with plebs, and your answer was kind of like that you focus on the deepest part of the rabbit hole.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's the deepest part, because who knows how deep the rabbit hole goes. But, I just, first of all, and I think we'll get into this in this conversation, I can't relate that well to the technology side of what Bitcoin is. I try to educate myself, but I only go so far. So I can't extend my understanding, or it's more difficult for me to extend my understanding too deeply in that domain. But the domain of its implications, be they economic, philosophical, personal, interpersonal, basically the implications that Bitcoin represents for meaning and behavior that comes from meaning, that I'm comfortable, digging as deeply as I can on. And so I guess that's part of the reason why I do. And at the end of the day, I think Bitcoin is incredible, but it's still just a tool, and we construct our tools, and then our tools kind of shape us. But what tools represent is novel behavior, right? It wouldn't be a valuable tool if it didn't represent some potential for new behavior. And I'm fascinated by all the new behaviors that Bitcoin facilitates, and both on an individual and then a social and cultural level. And so digging into that is super interesting and fascinating to me. And I think whether you're more on the economic and investing side, the technical, the philosophical, whatever, I think those questions, you can't avoid entirely those questions when you in your quest to understand this thing.
Yeah, and I often think that technology side of Bitcoin is mysticized maybe too much, man, because all we're kind of doing is shifting bytes from one state to another. But when you're talking about unique behaviors that Bitcoin facilitates, that's it for me, because I'm telling you, the way that I think all this ends, because we're starting too strong philosophically, but the way this all ends, it's machine civilization, man. Us humans are just stepping stone to machine civilization, and in order for that to happen, there needs to be better money. And to me, it's one of the components why I find people that are opposing Bitcoin so funny is that what will machines use, dollars and printed paper? Obviously not. It will be digital money, and we finally developed the technology to make digital money reality. So
do you mean you think we're kind of a bootloader for our
Yes.
future machine organisms, or there's some kind of integration there?
I don't think there is integration path. To me, integration is kind of this wish that us humans, we desire for that to be an option, right?
Right.
So I more think that just machines win, and then they keep us around as pets, hopefully.
How do you feel about facilitating that evolution?
I fall back to that default of it will happen one way or the other, so I might as well participate in it. And then on my end, what I'm trying to do is machine civilization will happen regardless of what we do. What we can influence is what type of machine civilization will that one be. Will it be benevolent? Will it be, kind? Or will that machine civilization especially will be like cutthroat, the strongest one wins? Because that type of machine civilization will just wipe us out. The one that's benevolent has the potential of just like keeping us around because why not?
Yeah, it does kind of speak to those broader questions of like, is the universe and all of its participants just kind of a will to power, right? And the one with the greater power is the one that dominates and wins and exterminates those with lesser, or if there's a more benevolent principle that permeates that allows for coexistence between entities of asymmetric power, and I think there's probably a case to be made for both.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just that the one where the system needs to allow for opposing powers to coexist, it's more complex system. So it needs more work to make it happen, essentially, and it needs nurturing. And I'm telling you again, on my end, it's just making sure that my contributions go in that direction. And
what does it feel like? So we're talking about where we naturally gravitate in this domain of this new thing. And as a side note, I'm hoping before the machine takeover, we get a nice, beautiful Bitcoin renaissance that we can enjoy, global society on sound money before the takeover. That's all I ask, really.
I'm not sure us programmers will be able to give you that, man. We are already, I'm telling you, when I see Twitter, and this is usually how we start the conversation. We have this week in review where we scroll through guests' Twitter feed and then scroll through mine Twitter feed and see what was going on. Like, to me, machine civilization will love this. It will be like they will scroll and then they will somehow develop capacity to feel, this is funny,
right,
Justine, this is interesting, so we as you're saying, like, bootloader for machine civilization. That's how I see it. Hopefully they will not see a promoted tweet, so
well, you see this as being like a relatively on the horizon sort of thing. Like we cross the line with Bitcoin and all this, happens pretty fast.
I see it happening like this, like you were saying. I love this meme that gold bugs, they're not even for decades, it's centuries. Safe haven, and then
so good.
Just Bitcoiners come in, man, and destroy the show. So,
but you know what, man? Like, you may be right. I mean, nobody has a monopoly on a prediction of the future. But I almost don't care. Like, I would love it. My default position is I would love for humanity to persist, right?
Yes.
Because I'm a human, and there's lots of beautiful things that occur in the realm of humans, and I would like them to exist in the universe for some reason. But if our fate is that, then my opinion is just to try to live a life, as genuine and with as much integrity and honesty as possible in the meantime, and accept what comes as a result of behaving in that way. Like, engage in things that are meaningful to you and do so honestly, and whatever happens, happens. And if it's the end, it's the end, it's kind of my philosophy.
It's more like that. What I'm saying, by you and me engaging in this conversation, for example, we are facilitating nice communication. We're not yelling at each other. And as a result of that, we are moving reality in one direction. Much better direction than if we are looking at stuff we do not agree, you and me, and then facilitating that. And that's how I see that machine civilization will basically be bootstrapped depending on current situation in the world. So what we should be doing, it's like, it's not meaningless, it's very meaningful. And we should be moving our reality in the direction of, okay, it's kind of reality. It's, you and me talking, people in comments, we're spending Easter Sunday together having fun.
Yeah. You mean that like the example of our interactions kind of serve as like the DNA for the machines, right? Like they will learn and adopt many of the things from us, and therefore in that way our actions still have a lot of relevance, right?
Yes, because it's exactly, I was scrolling through your feed and I saw this great book. We were discussing it a few days ago. They thought they were free. And I'm not sure I can play a little bit for our viewers, or maybe they can click. It's better than messing with the sound. But essentially, it's the part from this book. Maybe you can present it better than me. It's about Germany before World War II.
Well, my perspective on this was, the last year has been the last year. I don't have to describe it for people. And we've seen a lot of changes and a lot of things imposed on people. And it made me, and I'd been a critic of the way things were even prior to this past year in many ways, whether that be central banking or whether that be the size of the government or what have you. And so this last year has only really poured gasoline on that fire. But, it's really hard to get a grasp of what is reality, right? I mean, we have so many biases and prejudices and conditioning and all that kind of stuff. Like, how is it you see with clarity in the world? And that's been one of the driving motivations my entire life, is to try to see things with clarity and then make some feeble attempts at articulating the current position I'm at and the current clarity that I have. And, with trying to understand what's going on today and trying to understand what the implications of what's going on today are and the dangers or the pitfalls or the risks, I think an analysis or an understanding of periods in the past where things have gone horribly wrong with the complicitness, let's say, of normal, good, intelligent, educated people. Like, how do things go wrong, I guess is the question. And so I'm fascinated by the period of the 30s in Germany, because what you had was a wealthy, educated, civilized society who either through complacency or complicitness or a combination of both ended up feeding into something that had disastrous consequences. And rather than just screaming and yelling that things are wrong, or I disagree with this, or this triggers me or that, like I want to understand the psychological processes that led to those outcomes. And, so I sought out that book. I Googled, something like, normal Germans in the 30s or something. And an excerpt from the University of Chicago of that book came up. And then I was recently reminded of it because Michael Krieger posted about it as well. So I ended up buying it and listening to it with the sole intention of trying to see how normal, good people feed into tragic outcomes. And, long story short, that the reason why I posted that clip is because it speaks to the propensity to not realize how bad things are or the trajectory on which things are. And as a result, when you should resist and how you should resist. And, the reason, and I posted it with the caption "food for thought," right? I wasn't there saying, this is what's happening now, you guys all better listen. Now, I have a feeling that a similar process is at play right now, but I put it there for food for thought because I was like, hey, and interestingly, I think an interesting part of that was it was written, I believe in the mid 60s, although it could have been in the 50s, but an American journalist lived in Germany for a period of time and befriended 10 Germans from different segments of society, lawyer, cop, baker, whatever. And as he befriended them, he got their side of the story. And it was really interesting to hear how they characterized that time. And at that time, 9 out of 10 of them referred to the period of the 30s under Nazism as the best time of their lives before or since, speaking from the 60s. And these large social movements, shifts, pathologies, if you want to characterize them that way, can be very insidious, and they can be very surreptitious, and they can emerge and play on your psychology in ways that you are oblivious to. And that's the point of studying them and sharing something like that, because everyone in Germany at the time, who ostensibly were good people and educated people, they didn't see where this was headed, and therefore they didn't speak up earlier. In fact, they actively criticized anyone who did speak up as being an alarmist, as being, worrying too much, or, as it said in the clip. So it's an important perspective to have. And as we've all heard before, those who don't study history, are doomed to repeat it, history doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes. And I feel a lot of time in society today that most people don't even have an interest in history, let alone an appreciation for what caused their historical counterparts, right? People, they're the same
finer points.
Exactly. Normal people, just like them in the past. How did they feed into these really horrible consequences? And I find there's a huge hubris of modern people, and that could be modern people in 1930s Germany versus 1800s, or today versus 1930s Germany. Just the hubris of the status quo, the intoxicating effects of the status quo can lead people to think that not here, not now, never again sort of mentality, when history proves that that's almost never the case. And you have to be vigilant in understanding why things occurred in the past if you want to prevent them in the future.
Yeah. I mean, man, it's like you have even bigger credentials for what we called you today to do on this show, and that is help people understand when coding is for them and coding is not for them. Because you approach the topic so analytically. It's great, because it's all about that. It's all about understanding, and to shift the gear to understanding in Bitcoin is can you tell a little bit, because again, to repeat for all the viewers, something that we touched on before we went live, is you are here today. The reason why I'm doing this Sunday Coding with Uncle Rockstar is to motivate more people to start coding, especially in Bitcoin ecosystem. But you did try coding and you decided it's not for you. Can you demotivate people from that idea of they should code?
I'll do my best.
Yeah.
My experience was, look, anyone knows that coding is an increasingly important and viable career opportunity as we move into an increasingly digital world, right? That's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And so back in 2014, I was using one of the online coding course programs that kind of held your hand as you coded up different stuff. And I had a routine of doing it for 30 minutes every morning for probably 6 months. And I think a lot of this comes down to knowing yourself, and that's no easy task. And, life experiences and actively trying to understand who you are is a very important part of that process. And for me, I ultimately just realized that this doesn't come naturally and it's not enjoyable. And there are other things that do come naturally that are enjoyable that I actually think I have some talent on. So why not lean into those to try to amplify whatever natural talent exists, rather than feeling an obligation to do something that I don't enjoy or I don't have any natural talent for. So, that's pretty much the reason why I gave up on it, just because, understanding yourself is obviously a lifelong journey. But, I think I've done enough work at least to know where not to go in my life, and try to use my my enjoyment, my natural talent, the meaning I derive from things, to try to act as a certain compass to steer me in the right, at least, direction, if not, a destination. And that's kind of why I gave up on it.
Well, I'm kind of glad that you gave up on it, because you're killing it with your podcast, man. And applying,
thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Living your the best version of yourself. So, and that's why you're here, to help the rest of us, because I will now keep scrolling through my feed before we switch to programming, and just comment on stuff that's happening recently. I mean,
well, but before you do that, one last point on what we were talking about. It's like, I think one of the things about Bitcoin, and let's say this characterized as being relatively early in Bitcoin, because at a certain point, the strictly financial gains to be derived from Bitcoin will start to diminish or level off. But I think it provides a certain degree of freedom and release for people, that like, if they can treat this properly, then they can have a certain degree of financial freedom, which then I think opens up, relieves them of the anxiety and the other emotions that prohibit them from understanding who they truly are and engaging in the things that they truly find meaningful. And what, I've said this a couple of times before on my show, but what really gets me jacked, like when Bitcoin rips $5,000, $10,000, or whatever the amount is not so much my wealth going up, but like, I see every increment like that, meaning that, holy shit, like, how many people just decided, I'm going to do what I find meaningful, and I'm going to stop doing that stuff that's destroying my soul. Like, how many? Is it 100? Is it 1,000? Is it 10,000? Because that's how we get, a better world. That's how we get happier people. That's how we get cooler stuff in the world, is people having the freedom to say, you know what, I'm going to fucking do what I want to do. And I'm going to do it with, like, all my heart and all my effort and all my energy. And I'm going to do it with people that I enjoy being around. And that's such a powerful energy. And I just love that Bitcoin is facilitating that. It's amazing.
Yeah. To me, it's just ensuring that people can withstand the level that they're on, and that, newly found wealth, they're able to handle it. And to me, it's really getting to a ridiculous point. I mean, I saw this meme before our show started. It kind of is
so
exactly
true, though.
like that, yeah. When you hear the arguments of supposed PhD economists, you just realize they're like PR department for money printing.
Exactly. So I'm having BTCization, I think, is hold on, I don't want to fuck this up, so I'm going to actually pull up.
Send me the link. Send me the link.
Okay, sending you now. So this guy is 20 years old, according to his Twitter profile, which I have no reason not to believe. And I'm having him on the show this coming week. And last night he sent me a article that he's working on and hopes to publish in the coming week.
This one?
And no, he hasn't published it yet. Okay. He sent it to me to have a look at. It's called "The Conclusion of the Long-Term Debt Cycle." I think and the Rise of Bitcoin. And dude's 20 years old, and he writes this big, long essay that lays out what's happening in the financial world with debt and interest rates and money printing and that kind of stuff, what it means, like zooming out and looking at it over the past 100 years and explaining it in great detail, and then explaining how Bitcoin fits into the equation. And like, it's not like he's not a PhD economist to the point of the meme that you just showed. He's just a dude who thinks that it's really important to understand these things, and also probably enjoys understanding these things, and is taking it upon himself not only to act that out and guide his behavior, i.e., get involved in Bitcoin, invest in Bitcoin and stuff, but actually have the confidence and the interest of saying, like, I feel like articulating this and expressing it in the world, and I think that could be a valuable contribution to some people. And like, again, like, dude's not educated formally. He's a young guy, and and this is the kind of thing that Bitcoin seems to inspire in people. And like, so the Bitcoin community, my experience of it has been, and obviously there's always exceptions, but a pretty
Hive
ferocious,
mind.
but a ferocious attitude towards trying to understand the things that are most important to them as much as they can, like incessantly, and trying to develop clarity around the topics that are important to them, and then not only trying to understand them, but even push the understanding forward, or
Yes.
refine the corpus of knowledge around it. And then not only do that, but have the courage to push out what they
Yes.
found and say, hey guys, what do you think of this? And have the courage to be told they're a fucking idiot, or receive feedback, and then continue doing that process. I mean, that's a real amazing thing to have occur, especially in such a broad community. And that's one of the things that's so great about what's happening here.
No, I have two of you evangelists over here, because Matt is also saying that not bullish on Bitcoin, but bullish on Bitcoiners. And it's exactly that. It's this process of evolution unfolding, in front of our eyes. Exactly what you're saying, with people stepping up and then being willing to open themselves up to critique. And I want to be criticized by you, John. That's kind of my position. Or you want to be criticized by me, and by virtue of that, we become better. Which is what we will be doing today on the stream. It seems to me we just have too many topics to discuss, because I'm not even getting to scroll through my feed to the point where Tesla security disclosure comes in. Because
we become better, but we also we accept that we're willing to reveal what and who we truly are, and we want to know the truth of what other people we're interacting with, what they truly are. And so, I think this is the main reason why we have that quote unquote toxicity in this community, is that when people come in, you want to apply a little pressure to see what cracks emerge, and to see what comes through those cracks. Who are these people really? Because you don't really know. I love this quote from the second Matrix movie, or maybe the third, but it's the the guy who guards the Oracle. Him and Neo fight, right? And Neo goes like, how come you didn't just? You could have just asked if I was the one. And he was like, no, I couldn't. You don't really know someone until you fight them. And conflict reveals character. And so, I really enjoy Thai boxing, right? And that's true in a Thai boxing ring. Like, you get to see, how tough, how courageous, how much emotional control people have in that situation. And it happens in the intellectual domain as well, where, how do people respond when you apply a little pressure? And it's such a good method of determining how you should assess people that are attempting to develop what is ultimately these really strong bonds that are occurring in this community. And I don't want to create a strong bond with someone that I don't have a pretty good idea of who they are. And so I'm happy to see a little pressure applied on them, so I know where they should fit in my, in my assessment of people.
Yeah, you're not for blocking people with love. You saw that one.
No, that's so stupid.
was the latest thing about from Lex that came up. No,
that's a very juvenile approach, in my opinion.
He made it, man. He is already at the position, and now it's satisfying his ego. So what can we do? We can just send genuine love. And speaking of Matrix, I thought you saw in comments that you're already being called a Morpheus because of your glasses. And
what comments?
YouTube comments that I can bring up on the screen. Here we go.
Oh, there you go.
So here you are, Morpheus. Strong start, man. But
maybe this is a point where we should give a little credit for these things.
Yes, definitely. Who made them?
So this, the brief backstory is, I recorded an interview with Michael Saylor in November, and this lady posted on Twitter later that day a photo of a car at the bottom of a ravine sort of crashed into a tree trunk. And she said, you know, I was enjoying this interview so much that when I got out of my car to open my gate, I left it in neutral and it rolled down the hill and hit a tree. And of course, everyone was like laughing, but was also like, is this a serious thing? Or are you just fucking around? And so I messaged her and I was like, is this for real? And she said, first I said, you know, dude. And she was like, I'm actually a girl. And I was like, oh, okay, well, my bad. But is this for real? Yeah, she was totally cool. And then she was like, no, yeah, it's legit. I was really enjoying the conversation, just wasn't paying attention. And the car rolled down the hill. And so that was a funny thing. And then a month ago or so, she sent me a message and said, like, I want to make a pair of analog laser eyes for you. You know, do you want them? And if so, you know, how do I get them to you? And so I said, yeah, sure, why not? And a week ago they arrived and they're awesome. So thank you to Have and to Hodl is her Twitter name, and her handle is 3Beneteau or something.
Let's go. I think I have. Yes.
No. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
But
like you were saying, like
here, man, there is a trend. We were promised girlfriends and we were getting married women on Twitter, Bitcoin Twitter. What?
Well, you know, there's a lot of trends happening. But you know, you mentioned before we started the stream that like this is just an example of some of the awesome shit that goes on in this place. Like people develop this connection with people that they've never met. You know, they've only heard them on interviews or interacted with them on Twitter. And there's such a strong bond that they're like, hey, man, I want to do something nice for you. Like, I want to do something funny for you, you know, and that happens all the time. You know, people are doing that kind of stuff all the time. And it's a really, you know, amazing hallmark of what's going on in this phenomenon.
Yes. And let's celebrate that. Let's celebrate that. Let's go with hey, thank you for supplying our guest. With awesome analog laser eyes. And then we post that.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. That's Uncle Coding. Because when the title of this episode is Rubber Duck Debugging, and it's kind of concept that us programmers being solitude creatures, we don't have anyone to debug our work, which is what you will be doing right now, because we're going to start right away. We're already 34 minutes in, but the way that programmers, let me explain the concept to you. When we're having some really hard bug, the way we address it is we start talking about it. Like what's happening in the system, what's expected behavior. And considering we are solitude creatures, we don't talk to other people. We talk to, let's go here. We talk to Rubber Duck. So, see, can I open the screen? The way is that you put a rubber duck next to your laptop and you're explaining what you're doing. So are you willing to do that with me right now?
I have no idea what you're talking about, but sure.
You understand the concept or no? Like, again,
you have a question and you put a rubber duck near your laptop and
yes, and then you ask. You go here. I explain what I'm doing here. I'm having a bug in this method. Oh, not in this one. This one is pretty simple. But I go through this method and I explain that here we have a connection string, that we're here selecting a service URI depending on whether the server is defined in absolute URI or not. And then through the process, you can start asking questions. But we won't go into coding. We will go into pull requests. Ready for that?
No.
No.
I look at this screen you have up now, and I'm like, what is he seeing? It's kind of like that, again, that motif from the Matrix, like where Cypher's like, I don't even see these lines. I just see blonde, brunette, redhead. Like, because this looks like obviously a bunch of just fucking complex gibberish to me, but obviously it's very ordered and methodical in your mind. So what does all of this look like to you? It's a vague question, but you can hopefully
No. It's a good question, because to me, all this is essentially Lego. Like, this is a Lego, and
like a Lego block, you mean?
Yeah, it's a black box. It's a special Lego. There's really a black box. It has some inputs and it has some outputs, and it has two levels of abstraction, because this is like outer layer, and then within that outer layer, the class itself, you have data and you have behaviors. And there are different approaches how to go with this, but the more you can turn this into just functions, the better you will be. There shouldn't be too much public data exposed from Lego. Everything should be exposed through functions. So, and that's where most computer programming then goes in. I don't know how much you went into it, but like, there are classes. Classes are abstractions of something. You have class person is usual, or like class human is usual example. And then human can have some kind of properties, just like height, weight, stuff like that. And then it can have behaviors, which are the methods, right? Am I making sense so far, or no?
I mean, I'm following you as much as I can follow you. Yeah.
So this is where those inputs and outputs come in. Like, each behavior, you define what is required for that function. You're saying, okay, in order for my black box to do something for you, you need to provide some kind of input, and you're going to get some kind of output. And that's what all the functions in programming languages are for. Here, within the function, you're just having different algorithms. So this one is quite complex.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
We discussed why I don't enjoy this stuff. Why is it you do enjoy it? Like, what aspect or element of this world draws you into it?
It makes sense. Like, that's the biggest. There is this running joke that all people that enjoy programming were bullied as a kids, and then they finally developed the sense of control. Like, in programming, everything makes sense. So it's right. A great joke, because as all great jokes, they're kind of true. And in programming, everything makes sense. If something is not working here, there is a clear reason why.
Right.
And I enjoy that a lot, because it allows me to express my thoughts in a way that's logical. And I would really think you would enjoy programming if you only started earlier. That's also the thing. You need to get to the point of programming where you feel the mastery. Like, this doesn't like scare you. You're like, okay, I know what's going on here.
I have to imagine that it's at the very least a gratifying experience, because, as you said, like, you know the parameters of the quote, like the physics, the engine, like the parameters of the system, and within that, if you do things a certain way, the output will be assured, right? You will be able to build something concrete based on your inputs. So I can see the appeal that like that can be, I guess, as with building almost anything, like it's gratifying to know how to build something, build it, and then see the fruits of your labor. But I can also see the flip side of people that desire perhaps more openness and flexibility and lack of parameters, which
Yes.
maybe the philosophy side of things is on that represents the philosophical side of things, maybe would be more averse to it for that very reason.
Yes, you're right in a sense that if you enjoy undefined like behavior, you will not enjoy programming, because in programming you need to be really precise, and there is no, if you want to develop a little bit of randomness and stuff, there are ways to do that, but you really need to be on high level of programming. You need to be really experienced. Plus,
see, I think that's one of the reasons why I'm not super into it, because I feel like my mind is not that well structured. Like I try to go with in the moment stream rather than methodical like breakdown of things.
That's kind of interesting, because I don't see you like that at all, man. But it's more that you. I would get if you're saying you're enjoying that, but your mind is so rational, man. And here is another thing that's becoming quite problematic for people, is that code and code bases are increasingly social, in a sense that previously, before this revolution of remote work and then open source movement growing and growing and growing, programming was disconnected. Nowadays it's way more social, in a sense that pull requests, and not only you criticizing your code, now there are other people criticizing your code as well, and that's becoming a huge component of working like as a developer. So over here what I have are pull requests against BTCPay Server like project, and this is something that we do a lot within the team. I know that here, like, I usually help Cookie with his pull requests, and I've saved this pull request because, see, it's not only that people are criticizing you, you now have machines criticizing you, these tests failed. So now you need to go through the output of the test and see, okay, what's the problem here? What needs to be fixed? So,
man,
yeah, that part is kind of
it seems painstaking.
Yes, so, it is, but it's fulfilling. As everything full of pain, it's once you succeed, it's fulfilling.
Does it tax you in a particular way that requires a response from you in terms of like another activity to decompress or to kind of clear your mind of the painstakingness of a job like this?
Oh no, man. Like, I am type of person that that pushes developers in the direction of embrace the pain. and that's where Cookie is especially good, because once he starts, he can't be stopped, man. And you see now comment remove these, and now did he remove it? I don't think he did. He didn't. So, man. And this is where social component, for example, is extremely nice. Like, let's do that for him. We'll just illustrate it for the people how I would now contribute to this pull request, because what's happening here is that Cookie removed one class, but he didn't really remove it. He just commented the class. So now this code is not being executed. However, Nicholas wants to remove this. So how I contribute like that, I see the branch that we need to edit. I find the branch here in Git. And this is how, John, us developers usually work, is we have something that it's a source control. It controls the the versioning of the code you're writing and allows you to, branch within the code base. So let's find Cooks's branch, point switch. So that's the branch he was working on. I'm going to check out that branch locally for me.
Dude, it really is like building like a digital cathedral, like
Yes.
every single brick
Yes.
and carving and shape and curve is so precise. And
Yes.
there's so many of them, right? And they all build upon each other. It's incredible.
Yes. So,
Is there much conflict in managing a project like this where there's so many components, so many opportunities for errors? Is there much conflict in cooperating on something like this?
yes, there is, but that's where the tools that we're now starting to use come to shine, because previously you didn't have as good version control systems as Git was. You had this thing where everybody was in the office, and then source control server was within the office, so you couldn't work from home, for example. When you make a change and when you're making change in file, it will log that file for everyone within your team. Now that we have Git and we have GitHub, you can have this kind of stuff, this branching of code base going in different directions, and then look here, like I'm now going to implement what Nicholas wanted. I just find this file, coin switch tests, that's the file, and I delete the file. So now file is deleted for me locally, and my source control detects that. Okay, you've deleted that file, what Nicholas wanted. So now I say I'm going to commit those changes. I say remove coin switch tests.cs per Nicholas. And see, like I'm mentioning him, so he will be notified by GitHub.
Right.
Boom. And now the commit is done here locally for me. However, because I'm a BTCPay Server contributor, I can push to this repository. Otherwise, I would be pushing to my repository, and then GitHub as a tool would allow for that commit to be integrated. It will be like collecting from different places. But look at this. Now I say push this commit to origin. And here is my commit. And now the whole build system is starting to warm up to ensure that I didn't break anything with my commit. And now Nicholas and Cooks are notified. So what I can do...
Is there any concern or necessity especially when you're working on a project that has a lot of ideology wrapped up in it, as BTCPay Server has, and really anything in the Bitcoin space, or most things probably? Is there any, do you have to put limitations on how much time you spend working on these things? Because it seems like it could be a black hole of working on them, right? Because the work is never done. So how do you put the proper parameters in place to know how much work to do and know when to back away and not overdo it?
Well, that's kind of different for everyone, but for me, the way I do it is I depend on people that I've selected as nodes in my network. And for example, here I shouldn't be doing anything. I'm just doing it as illustration. See? So I now say, okay, I did it. Oh, I should have said something like, I did it for you, Cookie.
But I guess part of what I mean is, do you restrict yourself by a time? I'm going to work 9 to 5, 10 to 8, whatever, or
no,
just whatever you feel like?
The way that I do it is I talk with people, and then those people kind of give me goals. and then I arrange my goals. I turn those goals, place them on the calendar for the week ahead. And it's essentially one promise cancels the other. I know that I need to finish what I promised to one person so that I have time to do what I promised to, second person and third person. And that's how I organize myself. The great thing about BTCPay Server and why I encourage people to join the project is because it has structure. It really has a good structure, and it's not coincidence. It's something that we as a team have really focused on building, and it's a great team. So we have Nicholas, who is fantastic all-around coder. We have Cooks, who is a great coder. We have me, who I'm kind of like jack of all trades. And then we have Pavlonix, who is great at organizing stuff. So you see, for example, now I'm trying to find his organization project dashboard, and I suck. Because okay, here it is. But you can see how Pavlonix is laying the board for the whole team and giving clarity on, what we are trying to accomplish in January, March. Did we accomplish it? What comes in April, June? Did we accomplish it? So it's exactly as you were saying, like this cathedral that's being built. And if you, screw up your part, somebody will come to pick you up,
Right. And now, speaking about that and relating it to current events, what does it mean when Tesla makes a disclosure like they have? Like we were just going through some of the code, and Nick had a comment saying remove these, and you remove them. Like, what does it mean when they did what they did?
That one is slightly more challenging because you don't want to give the notice to potential exploiters. And in that sense, the way we approached it is it was fixed directly, not through the pull request, but fixed here. Where is the Nicholas fixing them? I'm not sure I can.
How would they have found it out?
That's the beauty of open source. You just check out the whole code base and you run the project. And there are certain classes of exploits. There are people who specialize in attacking systems. So they deploy environment and then they try all the different classes of exploits. And when they think they identify something, they also have the source code to validate it through the source code. Okay, yeah, like this is not working the way it's supposed to work. And then you make a security disclosure. So I'm now just trying to find.
What was the reaction internally to have received one of those from Tesla?
Oh man, it was quite interesting because you would expect that Tesla is this, big company with rockstar developers and whatnot, but it was kind of interacting with any old entity. We didn't really expect that there will be so much excitement in the community when it's disclosed that Tesla was working on this. But
it's kind of cool.
It is because what I love about open source ecosystem is that it's kind of like, I would love if we could turn our governments into these like open source collaborations and like protocols and that type of stuff, because this allows for so much more information to be processed and information to be structured in a way that people can contribute. Because you look at what Tesla did. They checked out the source code. They brought up BTCPay Server environment. They tried to find problems. They found problems. They reported it to us. We fixed it. We announced it. and much better than if we were closed source project, and then Tesla needed to sign NDA and
Right.
contract, and right. So yeah,
like where is BTC Pay Server at right now? I mean, I know that's maybe a bad question, but like Tesla's obviously using it, right? Which is super cool.
and we can't announce 100% because they're still not to that point.
Oh, okay. Seems like they might though.
Yes. At this point, I would say that this is again where us as open organization really shine. Like, here is where we are. You, as you know, well, it would be unfair to say that everyone on the internet has the same level of access that I do. But when you look at, okay, where BTCPay Server will be going, you have the same level of access. In a sense, like, these are the conclusions and data that I look at when it comes to my own contributions. Although my contributions in next few months will be focused on getting more contributors in and really putting in spotlight all the great work that's happening, because there are so many things happening on BTCPay Server as a project, and unfortunately they don't get as much coverage as a Tesla security disclosure. But we will actually be doing more with security disclosures, and I expect Tesla will be part of that.
Maybe the better question is like, I mean, most people are familiar with Nicholas's tweet at the BitPay guys originally, right? But like, where is BTCPay Server going? Like, where does it intend to like fit into people's, lives or mix or whatever?
To me, we just need to keep doing what we are doing. We need to continue. We need to continue being kind of like go-to solution if you want to deploy Bitcoin node and you want that node to be economic node. Like, there is activity, like economic activity going through your node. So I don't see the need for that going away like ever, really, because you can there are so many ways to deploy your Bitcoin node, but can you use that node for like receiving payments, sending payments? You can, but it's so much easier with BTCPay Server, right? Because we have so many integrations. So that's what we will keep doing. And
the idea is still kind of like sovereign commerce, right? Like
yes,
you're able to sell something without any intermediary, and all the necessary tools are packaged in there for you to do so, right? Not just like
yes,
using a static address or any simple thing like that.
yes. And expanding on that point, also a thing that most people don't get into is the fact that BTCPay Server as a community is kind of like Tinder for Bitcoiners, but in a sense that we don't start kissing each other and stuff, but we enrich each other. You want to start contributing to open source, you just come to BTCPay Server as a community and you talk with like-minded people and say, okay, here is where we need someone to help. For example, like now we have these discussions that Pavlik started, and this is where people, they're like, okay, I don't know how to do this, but can somebody do this? And then there is also the hub, I would say, for everything BTCPay Server is good old chat.btcpayserver.org, where you can see people in general chat, asking questions, getting their questions answered. You go into Lightning.
Man, it must be so cool for people that have this proclivity to have an outlet like this. Like, let's say you're someone who really is interested in these things and maybe even aligns ideologically with what Bitcoin represents, and just to have these projects, to be like, holy shit, like I can actually, I don't have to wait to be hired by whatever company or anything like that. Like I can just start dipping my toes in now because I want to, and then you become a part of this awesome community, and you're building something, you know, incredibly meaningful, and you know, whatever that snowballs into, who knows? But it's amazing that opportunity even exists.
Yeah, yeah, and that plays into whole how Bitcoin helps transform people. It's applied. Basically, it's applied that, because I always reference there as Pierre is a good example. Yeah, before Bitcoin and after, right? You see the pictures, Pierre Richard. Chairs when he was still using chairs, and then there is even a joke with Jack Dorsey, where is the like before Bitcoin and all the people.
Bitcoin melts away all the things you don't need in life, it seems.
Yeah,
it focuses
exactly
on the things that you think are incredibly meaningful.
Yeah, like before and after. But if people just held through, you need to hold, and then everything will be good. Because yeah, it's Easter and transformation. And speaking of transformation, one thing, because we are already kind of out of time, man. It's been an hour, but I don't want to finish this before I get the answer. When are we seeing Gang of Four coming together? You, Gigi, Breedlove, and Jordan Peterson. Like, when is that happening?
Well, I've been sworn to secrecy, but with any luck, it'll be happening soon. So that's the best I can give you.
Because I need to tell all the people watching this stream. Yeah, we need to like retweet.
Look, man, I have my fingers crossed, right? I hope there's something in the works. I hope it stays together, because you know, and I said this a couple times before, like I don't care about orange pilling Peterson, really. Like that'll happen or it won't happen on its own accord.
Yeah.
I just can't believe how lucky I would be to be able to sit down with a mind and a person like Peterson and have a discussion on something that I feel is one of the most meaningful things in my life, and that he is starting to try to understand what the meaning is, and to have, you know, just a conversation. Like he asked questions, I'll probably have a bunch of questions for him, and I just think it would be super enjoyable. And if he did take an interest in Bitcoin, and if he did maybe perceive Bitcoin's meaning in the ways that you and I and many of us have, I can't wait for a mind like his to grab on to what Bitcoin represents, because once he starts to see the full picture, I think he'll be extremely interested in it. And I think what he will produce as a result in terms of his thinking and what he says about it will be really fascinating, and hopefully push all of our understanding further. Like, and what I love about it too, man, is like he can come in and he's going to get the pleb treatment just like anybody else, right? So like if we might have that conversation, and if he starts, you know, whatever, being egotistical or talking about other stuff, or fill in the blank thing, he'll get pilloried just like everybody else, and rightly so. You know, like you come in and you're judged on the value of your ideas and how you communicate them. Yes. And that's a huge part of it, right? Like not only what you communicate, but how. And like I have hope. I don't think Jordan's going to be like all the other famous people that have dipped their toes in the water. Who knows? But it'll certainly be an honor to get the chance to speak with him. So I hope it stays together.
Thank God for Bitcoin. That's what
thank God for Bitcoin.
Yeah, thank God for Bitcoin, because we now have something to rally around and just enjoy pushing it forward, so that when machine civilization comes in, my man, it will be a benevolent one. It will be, I'm telling you, we will just watch at machines, you know, as our creation expanding to conquer the universe, and we'll be sitting around like house cats, you know,
Well,
lounging around.
I like how you characterize it, man. We got to at least have something in the record to show, for something positive in the record for them to learn from,
Yeah.
because there's certainly enough tragedy and that kind of stuff in the historical record for them to learn from. But hopefully, this whole big phenomenon that we're a part of, and the people that we are in as we participate in it, hopefully it will at least let the record state that there was some good in all of this too. So
Yes, it definitely will. I may amen to that, and I would close it with that, man. Positive vibes, because I'm optimist. I'm optimist. We'll
I'm an optimist,
defeat.
but machines are going to take us over, and hopefully
Yeah,
we'll be
don't you?
house cat.
Yeah, but don't you enjoy the fact like you're just house cat who can lounge around the whole day, and you're like looking up to the stars, and you see all these machines that we spawned expanding, and they're like our little kids,
I mean, don't get me
nephews.
wrong; it would be cool, but the problem is
You
if
wish
you don't
control.
if you don't have agency, right? If you don't have freedom, then that would be a problem, and it seems like that might be the case in that kind of scenario. But
Huh.
who
We know.
knows? I'm an optimist too. So
That's
and
the ultimate
the
freedom.
thing,
We need to schedule another one because
yeah,
maybe I come on your podcast, because to me
yeah,
that
let's do
is
it.
exactly like ultimate freedom. It's that's the ultimate freedom. It's not the freedom that you. It's not freedom spawning from control, because control the control saddles you with responsibility. Like freedom without responsibility. That's how I see it.
Well, you are invited, and
Okay.
we'll set it up after this, and we'll continue this conversation.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. We'll close it with that. Thanks everyone for spending Easter Sunday with me and John in Church of Rockstarism. We will continue with these sessions, inspire the right people to code, and then people that are the best versions of themselves when they're not coding. We're going to send them another way, like John's way. Let's go. Just keep contributing to Bitcoin one way or the other. Okay, John, thank you again for being with us.
Thank you, brother. It's always a pleasure.
And yes, see you soon on your podcast.
Let's do it, man. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter, everyone. Bye.
I'm sexy and I know it.